All right. So my name is Alex Freid. I'm the founder and executive director of the Post-Landfill Action Network. And we're a nonprofit network of student leaders on campuses all over the country that are working towards zero waste. So I'm here to talk about how a zero waste campus is possible. So I'm going to start off by asking for a show of hands. How many of you think that this item here, a styrofoam tray, is recyclable? Okay, just a few of you. My team over here saying yes. So the answer, this is a trick question. The answer is that a styrofoam tray is in fact recyclable, but not recyclable via the traditional methods of recycling. You can't put a styrofoam tray in a recycling bin. And the reason for that is because most material resources that we interact with on a day-to-day basis are just that. They're material resources. They're resources that have been extracted from the earth, and they've been made into consumer goods, and they can be broken back down into those material resources and recycled properly the same way that bottles and cans and paper and plastic are. But we don't have the logistics and the infrastructure to collect them properly. This is a photo from a styrofoam recycling plant where they are able to actually collect styrofoam in bulk, and they're able to densify it and break it down into these blocks, and then they're able to recycle it more efficiently because they can ship it and transport it more efficiently on these pallets, and they can get rid of all of the air that's packed into styrofoam. Styrofoam is like 98% air, so it's really hard to transport it. It costs a lot to transport it. If you densify it, then you can recycle it properly. So what we talk about a lot is that waste is just simply resources in the wrong place, right? It's all of these material resources that we're throwing away, and it's really inefficient. So when we talk about what is zero waste, an institution is zero waste when they have achieved greater than 90% diversion. And diversion is basically diverting all of these materials away from the trash, which is essentially diverting them away from the landfill and the incinerator, towards opportunities for them to be reused, recycled, composted, et cetera. So when we work with student groups on college campuses across the country to set up programs, we help them set up these programs for compost collection, expanded recycling collection, setting up reuse programs, thrift stores, et cetera, things like that. So this is a photo. Can you guys see this? Should we turn the lights off or dim the lights a little bit? OK. So this is a photo of what it looked like during move out at the University of New Hampshire 5 years ago. We saw furniture, electronics, clothing, dishware, decorations, school supplies, food, all these usable materials heading to the landfill every single year. And so we set up a program called Trash to Treasure, and we collected all this stuff that students otherwise would have thrown away, and we stored all of those materials over the summer, and then we held a giant yard sale during move-in weekend, and we created this program around reusing these materials that otherwise were headed to the landfill. And so basically, what we talk about a lot is that waste is just a logistics problem waiting to be solved. So what we had to do is we had to figure out the logistics of this program. We had to figure out what were the drop-off locations, where were we going to store all of this stuff over the summer, and then also where were we going to hold the yard sale. And in the last 5 years, we've grown this program tremendously. We now have the yard sale in the Whittemore Center. The program has diverted over 150 tons of waste in the last 5 years, generated over $85,000 in revenue. It's a pretty significant program on campus, and it's all just based on simple logistics. So the logistics can be as simple as, at Portland State University, setting up clothing and shoe collection bins next to dumpsters, right? Really simple. Or it can be as challenging as setting up a student-run thrift store, figuring out the space for the thrift store, how you're going to employ the students, how you're going to set up the displays for the items. It can be as complicated as setting up a campus-wide compost program that at Ohio University is able to compost over 1 million pounds of food waste a year. And that's the trucks, the logistics, the collection, the bin system, right? And also the facility to compost this material. Or it can be as incredibly challenging as setting up what they've done at CU Boulder, which is a brand new $7 million student-run recycling facility. It's an incredible facility. It's really impressive. It's all based on logistics. So I'm going to go through an example. If you were to set up a styrofoam recycling collection program on a college campus, step one would be to choose a company, right? You have multiple different companies, multiple different price points, different transportation logistics. So you choose a company, and then the next step is to figure out where are you going to aggregate these materials on campus. And this is really important, because when you set up this aggregation hub, you have to figure out how you're going to transport the materials from the aggregation hub to the company, and also how much space you have in the aggregation hub, how much space you have in terms of volume, the collection schedule, things like that. And the aggregation hub is really important because you can't constantly collect from every single location on campus and get it to a company. You have to have a location where you can aggregate all these materials into a truckload and send that truckload to a company. So the next step is to figure out where are you collecting from on campus, right? Are you collecting from every single dorm and every single academic building on campus? Or are you collecting from certain drop-off locations? You set up a drop-off location in the student union building, like the MUB, or you set up a drop-off location in the library, And then you set up the transportation logistics. So you have to figure out, are you using vehicles or carts for the collection? Are you setting up a collection schedule? What's the bin design for the bins on campus? What's the marketing around these programs? Is it volunteer-driven or paid staff? What's the total cost of the program? Troubleshooting, et cetera. So the idea here is basically these programs are all focused on just the logistics of the program. What we are is we're a network of student leaders on campuses across the country that are working towards zero waste. We help students set up the logistics. We help them ask these questions and answer them in terms of figuring out these programs. My message here is basically a zero waste campus is in fact possible. Students are leading the way across the country, and Plan can help. Thanks.